Hello my dear gardening friends! Finally the cold weather is here in coastal Connecticut, zone 6-7, and there are several things which we need to do to make sure that our roses are going to go into winter well protected and secure and will delight us with beautiful blooms next year. First very important thing which we need to do for our roses, especially for climbing roses, we need to make sure that the long stems are not swaying on the cold wind, rub against each other and permanently do damage to those long stems. So what I'm doing here, we have this long stem here growing from fairly young, generous gardener on another side. As you can see, I planted here. This generous gardener is much taller and much older, probably 10 years old. But this guy here is only several years old. So he's getting bigger and stronger. And it's getting a little bit too congested, this arch, for two big climbers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to redirect all beautiful young climbing shoots to go into different direction, maybe somewhere here. But this will be only temporary solution. This thing is not going to stand like this all summer. Or maybe it will. I'm not sure how it will work. But in order for this long, beautiful stem not to sway on the wind, I'm attaching it with green stretching elastic to this movable trellis. And my rose will be doing fine through the winter. And I'm going to take some of these long shoots out because they are, especially this one, it is going to sway on the wind too much and will get damaged in the wind. So there's no point of keeping it since the damage would be there nevertheless. It's the same as with this beautiful bush, Lady of Shallot. She lost almost all of her leaves for winter, but because of warm weather, look at this, she's still trying to produce some late blooms. Okay, so you see these long, big arched stems? They're going to be swaying on the wind to nowhere. So I'm going to trim them. And we are going to do, for the beginner gardener, we cannot trim our roses when the weather is still very warm. For this fall trimming, we have to wait for first fairly good frost nights. Yesterday we had -1 Celsius, 30 degrees Fahrenheit weather, which is perfect. This weather is signaling to the rose that winter times are here and rose is not going to produce any new shoots coming from these stems. Because if you do winter trimming too early, rose might start growing again. You can trigger rose into growing cycle, which we don't want rose to do. We want rose to go into dormancy. And again, I'm gardening in zone 6-7, so for me, long stems are not an issue. For gardeners who have roses which are sensitive to cold weather and they are gardening in cold weather, they might need to do more drastic of trimming. Here, weather is fairly we have very, I wouldn't say mild winters. We do have strong winters, but this rose, Lady of Shallot, she is hardy to zone 4, I believe. And since I garden in zone 6-7, I almost never had any loss of stems due to wind damage. I think that's it. This is how she's going to grow. Now, one more stem and this stem. Again, if your rose is growing on very windy side, you might need to lower the canopy. But otherwise, this area for me is very protected and my Lady of Shallot will be fine with this height going in. Maintenance task number 2 which I do at this time when the weather is very cold, I refresh the layer of the soil around the root system of the rose with compost. Sometimes, I remember last year I did well-aged cow manure. Today I had fairly good amount of compost. So this is a compost around 2 roses, the generous gardener. And what compost does, it doesn't only create an extra layer of insulation around the root system of the rose. It is going to feed the soil, make soil more fertile. And that thing is very important because roses are very strong feeders. They need a lot of supplemental food. And compost also is very great in vegetable gardening, where vegetables produce a lot of gifts for us, and they do take a lot of nutrients from the soil. So the best thing which you can do your own compost. And look at me, I garden on a fairly small lot. Some people consider it big, but it's not big. And I do composting in plastic bags hidden under the holly tree. By the way, here's the link how I do it. And it works very well for me. I do have good amount of compost every year, and I spread it around important plants in my garden or plants which need extra help because they're suffering for whatever reason. So that would be very important for roses which are struggling for whatever. But generally, this is what I do for my roses around this area, zone 6-7. If you live in colder area and you have not very hardy roses, you might need to do a stronger protection. This would be too weak for your area if you're in zone 5, 4 and 3. I don't feel pressured that I have to do the covering of the ground around every rose. For example, this lady of Shallot, she has mulch around her root system. So, and I really don't want to take this mulch out. I will collect all the leaves. That's another job you can do. Make sure that you collect all the twigs and leaves, all the debris around from under your roses. But for Lady of Shallot this year, I'm not going to do anything else. By springtime, this ground cover would be almost done. And then I will be doing stuff around the area around these roses. But for this year, this is how Lady of Shallot is going into winter. Other roses, especially in the front, where, you know, I question my decision to introduce roses to the front of the house, because we do have deer there coming from once in a while, and my roses are struggling. Just recently I noticed that my beautiful Eden rose, which was doing so well, is literally without every single leaf. One night all the leaves disappeared. So those roses will be given a generous amount of compost. And the last, probably the best thing which you can do, is to collect all the blooms and bring them inside. Since the weather is very cold, these blooms are going to be gone by next probably night. So I am going to take all of them inside and will enjoy them a little bit more in my vase inside of the house. And they still have that wonderful scent of a rose. Ah, look at them. Truly last flowers of fall. I hope these buds will open in the house. Let's see.